So there you go.
Sean Salisbury joining us here on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Sean, each week in the NFL, like, our opinions change. That's what happens. You get new information after each week because of a team plays well, doesn't play well, guys get hurt, so on and so forth. So we saw another offering Sunday night of the Dallas Cowboys, and some of the narrative was, well, they haven't beaten anybody. Well, Sunday they did, and they did it well, and they say dominant at home. Dak's having a great year. Just your thoughts on where Dallas is now and how dangerous they might be.
I think they're extremely dangerous. We know, I think they're so well coached on defense, guys. And it feels like there's a sense of, it felt to me at times last year offensively they labored. That even when there was a good play, that Dak labored over decisions and that Kellen Moore was late. I want to be a head coach, so let me call this to be a head coach instead of call what's going to give us the best chance to succeed. And I think that even when they were successful, it felt forced, sometimes like leadership does when a guy isn't leadership. That offense felt like that. Now, Mike McCarthy feels like he's got him in a rhythm. They're doing a little bit of everything. Dak is playing loose and free. Guys, I know we hear that a lot, but I can't begin to tell you how important it is. There's a sense of removing clutter from your mind, whether that's the social media, the naysayers, the positive stuff. Just remove the clutter from your mind and focus. And quarterbacks more than anything, and we hear this cliche too, playing in the moment. You got no choice. You can't play anything but the moment, because 400 yards 2 quarters later and an interception means nobody cares about your 400 yards. A missed tackle in the second quarter, but 4 tackles, somebody else to clean it up for you. You can do that. So you don't get to hide behind anything as a quarterback. So I feel like they're more free. I feel like it's not one person that's making a difference each week, and we know their defense can cut it loose. Philadelphia looks pedestrian the last 2 weeks, although we know they're not. I still think the 3 best teams in the national football, in the NFC, 49ers are still to me, my favorite in the NFC. I love the way the Cowboys are playing, and I assure you Philadelphia is going to start playing with some wrath and some anger, because they have looked a mere shell of themselves, but they'll get it going. They're still the 3 teams, but anybody that wants to question if the Cowboys are real, at least now, is not watching the same football we're watching. But I'll tell you what the question is going to do, and is going to happen, and is going to say, and what people are going to wonder, is this still a December, a November, October type team, or can they do this in January? Can Dak do this in January? That's what you're waiting for. And we haven't seen it since the mid-'90s for them. We've talked about that. So all 3 are poised, those 3 teams, with Purdy, Prescott, and Hurts in leadership at the quarterback position. All 3 have stars. All 3 have defenses that can disrupt at this time of year. And all 3 have playmakers outside the quarterback that can take over a game. The Cowboys are real. The question will be, are they real in January, and do they believe that?
Sean Salisbury with us. So when you look at Purdy and Prescott, their numbers are almost a wash. They're 50 yards apart passing. They both complete passes at about a 70% rate. Their quarterback rating is 1/10 of a point off of each other. It's ridiculous how close they are. They have the one head-to-head matchup where the Niners obviously won. They're both 10-3. So I'll ask you, season ends today. Who's got your MVP vote?
I'm still leaning towards Purdy, but the crazy thing about it is, Dave, is that what you get when you look at the numbers like I did and you just stated, isn't it going to come down to best player on number 1 seed?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, and it will literally come down. Let's say they're both like this and you get to the game 17 and they're both battling for home field advantage, and one throws for 390, the other throws for 270. You know who's going to win it. And I will tell you, here's how I do believe. I believe if the 50 voters today, I believe they vote. But when we got the LeBron winning them, okay, let's give it now. Now we got to lean towards, Giannis got his. He got a couple. Now it's Jokic's turn. The truth is you could have given it to Jokic again last year, and what'd they do? Joel Embiid got his, right? Didn't Embiid win it last year?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it's fatigue, but we like to do that, even though somebody like Jokic could win it every year. LeBron could have won it every year and still could. So I think it's the same thing here. He's been taking criticism and some praise longer than Purdy has. And I feel like they'll say, after all he's done, been through the injury, the Cowboys, America's team, I believe that they would favor and give the MVP to Prescott, and rightfully so. I don't think you could argue if the season ended today that Prescott wins the MVP complete. And I do think that people feel like Purdy has a few more weapons on the offensive side, and he does.
Yeah,
Debo and Ayuk and
Kittle, McCaffrey.
And they're McCaffrey. They're loaded. So I would think it would go. I still lean Purdy, but I don't know how you can in a tough division as well. Both have other teams in the division, at least one that can beat you. That can compete with you. Philadelphia and Seattle's got their moments as well in the West. So for me, I'd lean towards Purdy, but right now I understand why Prescott would get it. And if it stays like this, I believe Prescott would win it, because I think that there's that feeling of compassion of, not that you're feeling sorry for him, but that the guy has taken a lot of flack and he's overcome it to be put in this situation, coordinator change, all that. Yeah, I would think that Prescott, if things continue the way they are and they're tied at the end and their numbers are equivalent, Prescott's going to win it. Although what Purdy's doing to me in 13 yards per attempt last week, it's nothing short of phenomenal. Either one of them can win it. I think they're the two front runners right now.
Sean, one thing league-wide want to ask you about, like we hear officials or heard the statement a lot, you could call holding on every play. They don't call holding on every play. Well, in the Chiefs game with the Bills, we get a neutral zone infraction where literally Tony was in the neutral zone area. But was that an official mistake? Do we blame that strictly on Tony? Should that have been called? Kind of your opinion on just that whole sequence that got some controversy.
Well, I'll ask you guys first, and then was he offsides?
He was.
Yeah.
Then that's a penalty. Yes. This isn't like, well, it was kind of, did they foul him or did they not? This is a controllable penalty. That's why it's all on the Chiefs. This had 0. And I know what people say, well, they didn't call it in the Miami-Pittsburgh game earlier in the year, what have you. Well, this ain't the Miami-Pittsburgh game. It's not the same officiating crew. They lined up. It's an important game. And for Mahomes to say, and we accept his apology, not that big a deal. He went off, he's passionate. I love the fact that he's passionate, but to say it had no bearing on the play, okay, great. But if you would have thrown an interception in the game and Buffalo would have been lined up a yard or a half a yard offsides, even though the player didn't have anything to do with the play, you would have said, wait a minute, we should get that back. So it just depends on what fan base you are and what player you're. Of course you didn't like it called. He lined up blatantly offsides. The side judge couldn't see the football, and it's on him because you have to ask. You don't get that luxury with a holding penalty or a pass interference. Hey, let me know when I go up in midair. We're going to suspend ourselves, and I'll check with you if I'm allowed to grab it. Here, all you got to do is look at the side judge and say, am I onside or offsides? And so you're a football player in the league. We learned this in the 5th grade. Check with the official. He'll tell you whether you're on or offsides. It's on Kansas City. It's on other players for not checking Tony. It's on Tony for not doing it right. Yes, it was close, but a half yard or a foot, you're still offside. So all this, well, you can't call it. Yeah, you can, because if you score a touchdown like they did and then you were offside, well, it saves Buffalo. We're not going to get them all right. They're going to miss. And the refs are taking flack in some cases because they've had a rough year. They've had a rough couple years. But the fact is they got this one right. This is 100% unequivocal, no questions asked, the right call, and on Kansas City, not on the referees, not on Buffalo. And Kansas City needs to come to grips with the fact they lost, and they lost the touchdown because the receiver couldn't control a controllable penalty. Line up on side. It's 5th grade football IQ. That's on him and nobody else.
That's Sean Salisbury each and every Tuesday, just after 8 a.m. right here on Sactown Sports. Brother, appreciate you. Have a wonderful week. Can't wait to talk more football and other stuff with you next week, as always.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
That is Sean Salisbury, bringing the fire, man.
Yes.
Always bringing the fire, much like our friends at Fire Wings bring the fire each and every day. With Wing Day Wednesday looming tomorrow, you got another Kings game tonight. Don't cook. Don't do